Hi everyone, Azriel Knight here, and today I'm trying out large format pinhole photography. So as the title suggests, I've never tried large format photography before. I have no experience. In fact, I got a crash course on how to use this thing when I bought it. I picked it up at a swap meet at the camera store a month or two ago, and I do have some 4x5 negatives. They are expired. They're Ilford HP5 and they expired in June of 2012. I did get one film holder with it. It holds 2 negatives. So there's definitely going to be a few challenges with shooting with this camera. The first being that there's no viewfinder to speak of. I'm going to have to just line it up. I do know that it is a wide angle lens, somewhere in the range of 23 millimeters as it works out to. I'm really excited to see what I can produce with that. I did try and make a couple of negatives, one of my office desk and one of the dark room, but I don't know if I exposed them right, and I may have put them in backwards. Basically how this works, there's 2 little tension bars at the back here, and then this slips right in, and then you just rotate these to tighten it up. The next issue I have is the aperture. With a little searching, this aperture right here is f250. That's 250. My light meter only goes to 161. I found a calculator online, and 161 to 250 is about an f-stop. So whatever time this displays, I'm gonna have to double that. So for example, if I was shooting in here and I wanted to get a shot of me here, it's giving me an exposure of 50 seconds. That means I'll have to double it to 100 seconds. Obviously too, I'm gonna have to shoot on a tripod, and I've got a couple other issues that are gonna come up, but I'll get to those later. I'm gonna head into the darkroom now and load this up with film, and then I'm gonna head to my first of 2 locations. Okay, I was hoping to get straight on the roof, but they're doing a bunch of construction. I found this interesting spot right over here. It's got the railroad tracks, a few buildings. I don't know if I'll get the cars or not down there. Right there. Yeah, I don't know if I'll get the cars down there or not. It's actually giving me a much quicker time than I expected of 3.2 seconds. So I'm gonna double that to 7 seconds. Okay, I exposed it, and then I went from white to black on here to show that that side's exposed. I should probably flip it over now before I forget. Well, that was way quicker than I expected, even with just the one shot. And now I'm gonna head to my second location. Okay, I'm at my second location now, and it's probably one you're familiar with. It's a good shot of the city skyline, up close, no obstructions. Let's just see how wide this pinhole camera is. And that's it, just 2 shots. So I'm gonna head home now and head into the darkroom, which should prove to be challenging, but I think it's doable. So before I get into the darkroom, I'm gonna do a quick mail time and then an announcement. I think I got here 4 packages. The first is from one of my patrons. It's 2 rolls of Fomapan 200. I really appreciate this, Martin. They're gonna go to good use for sure. The next is this postcard. This is from Hogarth, another one of my patrons. He says he sends out postcards on all of his trips. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these. So thanks very much, Hogarth. I appreciate it. The next is from Angelo, and this is sent all the way from Austria. Angelo says it's always a pleasure to watch your videos on YouTube. He says he uses a Praktica with a Carl Zeiss, a Canon EOS 7D with a 50mm 1.8. Here are Angelo's pictures. I really like the color on this one. Really nicely done, Angelo. Thanks very much. I'll send you something in the mail. Check out this packaging. This in itself deserves praise. I really appreciate that. This comes from Charlie. He says, hey man, just wanted to say thank you for all the great videos and tips. I really enjoy that you share your trial and errors in your videos. I have a ton to learn, but have been having a great time learning. Charlie. Here's Charlie's shot. 3 of 3, first edition, printed in 2017. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know this is right up my alley. I'm gonna find a special spot for this. I really appreciate the hard effort that goes into all of the mailings. I can't thank you guys enough. If you want to send me something, the address is in the description. So that does it for mail. The announcement's pretty simple, actually. I was interviewed by Liam on his podcast, and I'll leave a link in the description. Here's a short clip to tickle your taste buds.
I was also featured on 660 News and 630 Chad, the Huffington Post, and I even had a feature spot on a program called Alberta Primetime. My website, At The Peak, received 19,000 views in a single day, and basically I hit every media type: paper, radio, internet, and television.
Nice.
I was also contacted by Fox News, but I didn't return their call.
Thank you again so much to Liam for taking the time to interview me. It was really interesting to pull all those pieces together from my past. It was a lot of fun, and I think you guys will get a kick out of the story. Okay, no more delays. I'm heading into the darkroom now. So as I previously mentioned, I had one other challenge, and that is I don't have a proper 4x5 holder. I have, however, tested another method. It's really simple, actually. I'm going to take this tank, just place the center column inside, and then just drop the film right in. I'll have to drop it in horizontally, and then I could just pop the top on just like that. And then I'll just do inversions instead of using an agitation stick. Oh, and I have 2, one for each negative. Alrighty, let's get these in there. That was relatively painless, actually. As you can see, the center column goes all the way down. These are light tight. One thing that is kind of funny though is I have no idea which is which now. I was going to develop both at the same time, but I'm probably going to do them one at a time just so I can focus. It's actually really cold in here right now. I'm getting a temperature of 65 for my distilled water. Rather than trying to heat up my distilled water or add hot tap water to it, contaminating it, I think what I'm going to do is just develop at 65. Okay, so I've decided that because the film expired about 5 years ago, and that the temperature is about 3 degrees less. Keep in mind, this isn't math, but I've decided I'm going to develop at 800 speed, but what it would call for at 68 degrees. So it's sort of a balance of both. It's not quite a full stop, overexposing, and then it kind of brings it back a little bit because it's a colder temperature. So I believe that's 7.5 minutes. Yeah, 7.5 minutes. Now, the great thing about this is I'm going to be able to look at the first negative and basically tell if I've way overexposed it. And if I've done that, then I don't have to screw up the second negative the same way. Okay, moment of truth, guys. Let's see how this thing turned out. Yeah, not so good on the first one, guys. I think I got some kind of double exposure or developing issue. I can't be certain. I'm gonna have to take a closer look. Okay, guys, here's exactly what happened. I realize this might be hard to see, but the water does not cover the entire negative. And I only used 500 milliliters in the tank because that's what the tank calls for. I just assumed it would cover up the whole thing, and it doesn't. The lines match up and everything. The good news is because I know what the issue is, I can correct for it the second round. So to ensure that I cover up the entire negative, I'm gonna need at least 800 milliliters of water, and I'm gonna make it 900 just to be sure. That's pretty disappointing. I was really counting on this shot. But the one thing that I will say is that I think I got the exposure right. I think it's a good exposure for what I need. I'm gonna develop the second negative the exact same way. Okay, guys, moment of truth, take two. I'm praying. I'm gonna hang this up now with the other one, let them both dry for a while, and see what we end up with. Okay, so after they dried, I scanned in the one good negative. Now, my scanner cannot show the entire 4x5, but you can see here that I did run to a couple of issues. The first and least of the issues are these streaks on the left and over on the right here, and that could be caused by lens flare. The second issue in the upper left corner, it looks like the negative carrier wasn't light tight, or I didn't load the film properly. And the third and final issue I noticed is that there's all these dark spots, and that's probably caused by air bells due to the type of agitation I was doing. I can't lie. I can't lie. I am disappointed. I was hoping for one really good clean shot, and maybe I was asking too much. Expired film, pinhole camera, no previous experience. There's probably things that I did miss. I did only get a crash course at the time of sale, and then I watched like a 2-minute video on how to load the film, and that was it. So maybe I'm asking too much of myself. Okay, I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back out and I'm going to shoot 2 more shots. I've already loaded the negatives into the carrier, but this time I'm just going to do it off camera. The last thing I want you to do is sit through another montage. So with that, okay, I went back, I shot the skyline again twice, and I came back and I developed them. The first one, I couldn't believe it. My thumb was in the shot. But this one turned out just fine. And there were 2 problems that I had. The first problem was that I didn't load it right, and I think that's what caused the light leaks. This time I pushed the negative all the way back as far as it could go, and obviously that worked. The second issue I had were all those little spots, and I don't see any of those spots on here. And I had suspected that it was the agitation method, that I was inverting too aggressively. That was exactly the problem. This time I just twisted the tank back and forth just enough to get the liquid moving, and the results are fantastic. I can't really justify doing a scan with this though. I think what I need to do is to make a contact print. And the reason why I choose contact print is because I don't have a holder for my enlarger over there. So as you can see, I've already got my trays set out. All I gotta do is pour the liquids in, cut some darkroom paper up to 4x5s, and do a test strip and see how this thing turns out. My first test strip went really well, actually. These are 1.5 second intervals with a 2.5 contrast filter. What a neat little size. I don't think I've ever printed in 4x5 before. Yeah, that turned out really great. It looks like I want to be around 6 seconds, right where my thumb is. Okay, here it is at 6 seconds. Not too shabby, actually. But I'm going to make a couple of changes. The first is I'm going to move the mount more towards the center of the light. I think that will help me get a more even exposure. And then I'm going to lower the contrast right down to a 0. I feel like this negative has a lot of contrast to begin with, But I want to make sure I give even attention to the skies as well as the cityscape. Also, it looks much darker on here than it actually is. I ended up making 2 more test strips. The first one here is a 0 contrast filter. And then this one here is a 1.5 contrast filter. And again, they look much darker on here than they do in real life. You can make out detail on the buildings. Yeah, I thought 2.5 was too contrasty. I thought 0 here was too flat. I am gonna go with a 1.5. When this is all done, I'll scan one so you guys get a better idea what the final result looks like. Yeah, 8 seconds with a 1.5 contrast filter was the sweet spot. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'm so glad I went back out. I'm gonna make a bunch of these now. Man, what a day. I got all those prints done now. I think there's 15 in total, and it looks fantastic. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'm so glad that I went out again and made sure I got it right. And not just for you guys, for me as well. Man, that first round, it did not go over well. Yeah, I definitely learned a lot today. I'm sure there's a bunch of you out there that know way more about large format photography than I do, and I'd love to hear all about it in the comments below. You can tell me everything I did wrong and, oh, you should have done this instead of this. Definitely put those in the comments so I can learn and do better next time. I am so surprised on just how wide that pinhole was, to the point where one of my last shots had my thumb on it and everything. So yeah, definitely a lot of lessons learned today, all condensed into one episode. I hope somewhere along the way that you learned some stuff too, and if not, I hope you were at least entertained. Oh, right, you want to see the image. Yeah, so like I said, really happy with the results. I'm going to use these as postcards to send out to people who send me stuff. So if you've sent me something, you can probably expect one of these in the mail pretty soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay classic.